Thanks for clicking. The Canadian Real Estate Association, the CREA, just released the national sales data for the month of September, showing a continual slide in sales. The report says that Canada is entering into a period of rapid adjustment, with both buyers and sellers trying to feel each other out, as higher borrowing costs have changed the calculations for home buyers. The report comes amid higher than expected U.S. inflation data, with many traders now betting the Bank of Canada will raise interest rates up to 4.25% by earlier next year, or a full 100 basis points higher than they are now.
Give or take.
And with interest rates rising, and with BMO saying that the current real estate market is being propped up by pre-approvals, sellers may soon find that buying affordability has shrunk from where it was just a few months ago, or even a few weeks ago. So what I want to do today is go over the report, looking at changes in Canada's average and benchmark price and our slowing of sales, and then take a look at how our prices could change with the rise in interest rates and the expiry of those pre-approvals. Speaking of affordability, the CBC is running a special on mortgage fraud in the real estate industry, and we're going to be having an update on that special on this channel.
You're being frank about the business, kid.
Click like and subscribe to get that update, but for now, let's get into this report. The CREA noted that sales in September were down 3.9% from the previous month in August. With September usually being one of the more busier months for real estate, this is definitely a sign of a slowing market. With that said, the average price of a home in Canada did rise, though marginally, up to $640,000, up $3,000 from August. However, the benchmark price did fall, a little over 1% in September. The benchmark price, if you'll remember, is the price of a home, which represents the most popular set of features. And the benchmark price in September was $766,000, down just over $11,000 from August's $777K. So we did see a big drop in sales, especially for September, but we didn't see much fluctuation in prices, with the benchmark price only coming in about $11K less than the previous month, and the average price going up about $3,000. But the CREA says that the current market is largely a reflection of changing interest rates.
Yeah, no Sherlock.
With holders of variable rate mortgages no longer holding an edge in buying power over those with fixed rates. Indeed, with Canada's prime rate now at 5.45%, those with variable rate mortgages now have to qualify at their contract rate plus 2%, rather than the 5.25% they have been qualifying at for the last few years. This makes the buying power much closer to that of fixed. For example, with a decent variable rate mortgage right now being prime minus 1 and a decent 5-year fixed insured mortgage rate being 4.44, at least until a few weeks ago, both holders of variable and fixed mortgage rates in the month of September were having to qualify at 6.45. With an average price of $640,479, that would have required an income of $150,000 for both holders of variable and fixed rates. But that was before fixed rate mortgages rose over the past 2 weeks, and definitely before the Bank of Canada is set to raise rates in just a few weeks from now, on October 26th. With Goldman Sachs predicting that the Federal Reserve will raise interest rates by 75 basis points in November as a result of hotter than expected U.S. inflation. If Canada's inflation rate comes in high as well at next week's announcement, then it's quite possible the Bank of Canada could go another 75 basis points as well. A 75 basis point rate hike would put our prime rate at 6.2%. So a decent variable rate of prime minus 0.1 would put the contract rate at 5.2%, and buyers would have to qualify at a rate of 7.2%. If they qualify at 7.2, that same $150,000 in income that bought that $644,000 house in September would now only qualify for a home price of $610,000. With 5-year fixed rates right now sitting around 5.1, the qualification would be around 7.1, and the buying power would be very similar to that of variable rates. So up until very recently, those who held variable rate mortgages had significantly more buying power than those who held fixed rates. That is no longer the case, with Canada's prime rate rising so substantially over the past year, rising 3% so far, with more to come. So the current real estate market doesn't reflect these major changes in interest rates that we've seen over the past month. And that's not to mention, as we talked about, that BMO says that the current market has been propped up with pre-approvals based off of rates from a few months ago.
The market now is still kind of leaning on pre-approvals from from a couple months ago before the Bank of Canada raised rates 175 beeps.
All of which are now expiring or about to expire. So homebuyers entering into the market over the next month, 2 months, 3 months will have to enter the market with these new mortgage rates, which will significantly reduce buying power. New pre-approvals will affect new rates, which on the fixed side are about 0.6, 0.7, 0.8% higher than they were just a few months ago. And as we talked about, variable rates are continuing to rise as well. So while the CREA says that buyers and sellers are still getting to know each other, are still feeling each other out,
I think he likes you.
fairly soon, the sellers are going to see that the buyer pool no longer has the affordability that it had just a few months ago. And this is going to put even more downward pressure on prices. How much pressure gets put on Canada's real estate prices will largely be a function of how high interest rates go, which will be largely determined by our inflation rate, which is set to be released on the 19th. We'll obviously have updates out on that inflation rate on this channel. Click like and subscribe to get those updates. But for now, thanks so much for watching.